Hello, everyone, and welcome to Film Etc., the only movie review podcast you need in life. My name is Mike Webb. I'll be your host. We just had Mother's Day here in the U.S., and I'm pretty sure other countries celebrate Mother's Day as well. But what better time than to review a new movie? For this episode, we are going into the French countryside to review a new film called Petite Maman. Is it something interesting that I should recommend to you all? Well, let's find out. But anyway, guys, if you are new to the show, welcome. I basically review a new movie per episode and grade them on a number scale from 0 to 10. So without further ado, let's get to my review of Petite Maman. Now, before we get into this review, I must cap you off with a warning. If you guys are new to the show, or if this is your first time, or if you need a little bit of refresher, I am diagnosed with autism, so you may hear my wording get jumbled up a bit. So I hope you all forgive me, and I hope you all enjoy. Petite Maman is the fifth directorial effort from French filmmaker Céline Sciamma, who's best known for directing the films Water Lilies, Tomboy, and Girlhood, but gained international notoriety from the release of her previous film, 2019's Portrait of a Lady on Fire. The film stars identical twins Joséphine and Gabrielle Sanz in their acting debut. Following the death of her beloved grandmother, 8-year-old Nelly, played by Joséphine, accompanies her parents to her mother's childhood home to begin the difficult process of cleaning out its contents. As Nelly explores the house and nearby woods, she is immediately drawn to Marion, played by Gabrielle, a neighbor her own age who's building a treehouse. What follows is a tender tale of childhood grief, memory, and connection. The film also stars, and I'm sorry if I butcher your names, Nina Meurice, Stéphane Varoupin, and Margot Abascal. Now, to preface this in terms of film knowledge, this is my first Céline Sciamma movie that I've seen all the way through. I've seen about the first 45 minutes of her last film, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, from which I've heard is this beautiful French lesbian period romance drama, which is gorgeously shot. I mean, that's what I've heard from film critics, filmmakers, and actors in the business. A lot of people have called it like one of the best movies of the year, one of the best movies of the past 10 years. It's quickly getting this like modern day like classic status. And I haven't seen any of Sciamma's other works, but Portrait of a Lady on Fire did win Sciamma the Best Screenplay Award at the Cannes Film Festival that year, as well as the Queer Palm. But I haven't finished it yet, so I don't have much to say about it. And I just mentioned haven't seen any of Sciamma's other work, but I know she's quickly becoming a name amongst the film community internationally. This film in particular, Petite Maman, premiered at the Berlin Film Festival in March of 2021, and I watched it last November virtually from AFI Fest. And although their virtual offerings from the festival were very slim, it was a hybrid event last year because most of their selections were in person only, so you had to be in California for that. However, on the virtual side, I did pick this and the Iranian film Hit the Road, which also came out the same week as the film's US release, and not a bad film as well. Hit the Road. So yeah, I also recommend that as well. But we're here to talk about Petite Maman. Now, Sciamma got this idea early on, just before the pandemic was about to hit, and they filmed this movie around the pandemic as well in the year of 2020. And it's a very delicate movie. We start off, it opens with we're in this like retirement / nursing home, and you see 8-year-old Nelly, played by Joséphine Sanz, who is just like is with an elder in there who's like helping her with like a crossword puzzle, and then all of a sudden she is like find out it's like it's time to go, and she goes to a different room one by one, telling each old lady adieu, and it's very sweet and touching. But I don't use that word a lot, touching. I just don't know why, but that's just a personal peeve. And it sets up with the main story of how she has to go to her grandma's house. She and her parents, she have to like de-junk the home, get rid of everything in there, and she like wanders through the woods. She has a mom, but but then one day she like disappears because she just like couldn't handle the grief. She's grieving, is what I should say, and she goes through the woods, and then well, early on, her mother tells her that she made like a treehouse or a fort out in the middle of the woods, and then one day, because her mom is gone, who is grieving, she just like goes into the woods and tries to find the fort if it's still there, and then all of a sudden she meets another girl who kind of looks like Nelly. Her name is Marion, who is also 8 years old, and this is Gabrielle Sanz, the identical twin. And all of a sudden, they go over to Marion's house, which looks completely identical to Nelly's grandmother's house, except it looks like it's from a different time period. Like you can tell from like the 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 paper background wall. I don't know how to phrase it, but it just happens to have uh something magical and something unreal, and you're just like in a completely new world that you're experiencing for the first time. Like you're taking like this nostalgia trip, I would say. Now, this is a completely different shift for Sciamma because her previous works usually tackled stuff like LGBT issues and femininity, and this plays out more like a simple family film, but has this like fantasy element that you won't even notice until you're about 15-20 minutes into it. And what this movie it it's kind of like hard to describe how, even though I want this review to be short, but it it is a beautiful movie. Uh, Most of her collaborators that Sciamma worked on with Portrait of a Lady on Fire have transitioned over to this movie. The same cinematographer, Claire Mathon, who also shot one of my favorites from last year, Spencer, starring Kristen Stewart as Princess Diana, has the same editor, same producer. And because this is a family movie, I was very skeptical on how both the child actors would do on this movie, because when you're working with child actors, they tend to run amok, they don't pay attention, they can be annoying, they like to misbehave. But in actuality, these roles, they're very well mannered, they are creative, and they're full of curiosity, and I was pleasantly surprised to see these roles that these two child actors gave. It's just pretty remarkable, to say the least. I mean, I can go on and on of how much I like enjoyed this movie to pieces, even though I have very little to say about the movie in general. I don't have any negative thoughts on it, which is very rare. Um, it is, I keep saying the word beautiful, but also touching. This movie is wonderful. It'll just warm your heart. You'll probably shed a couple tears as well. You're just gonna feel this sense of joy when you're watching it. Like every shot in this movie feels like it should belong in an art museum. Like that's how great this movie is. And it's a short movie. It's only 1 hour and 12 minutes long, which is very surprising. Just like once it's over, and you'll be like, oh, that's it, huh? But yeah, no matter how old you are, you'll probably get something out of this movie. But I encourage for not only the big cinephiles, but also mainstream movie audiences, even though it's going to be a little bit tough, though, because there's no musical score to accompany it with. There is kind of like a little piece of music that comes like towards like the last 5 to 10 minutes of the movie, and then nothing in which it kind of worries me to think that normal mainstream audiences are probably going to be bored, which I I don't think it. This movie should not be boring. I mean, if you're someone who's like big into like mainstream action, junk stuff like that, I don't know. And you just think it was like, oh, it's a movie about kids and all that stuff. I'm not interested in. Just at least watch it to have some respect. Just at least like all these workers, they put all their time and effort uh into making something that could be like revered years, if not decades to come. I would also say this though. I've had my share of watching French family films. I would say it ranges from like the brief but subtle career of Albert Lamouris, with his short films like White Mane, which is about a boy and his horse movie, and the beautiful cinematic wonder that is The Red Balloon, which I think is like a main inspiration for Pixar's Up. But yeah, and I would also say the works of Jacques Tati. Jacques Tati is kind of like the French version of like Chaplin or Buster Keaton, but during the sound era is very slapsticky. Uh, Basically, his Monsieur Hulot films like Monsieur Hulot's Holiday or My Uncle or Playtime. And even the one Hulot role in Jour de Fête, which means the big parade, as this like postal worker. Um, yeah, he has this like a wonderful like charm, and the humor very slapsticky, and it completely works. And if you're interested in any of these movies, I would highly recommend seeking them out as well. But I don't know what else to say about Petite Maman. This is a perfect movie. This is the first movie on this podcast in particular that I'm gonna score a 10 out of 10. I highly recommend you seek out Petite Maman. It is currently playing in select theaters at the moment, but it's probably gonna come to VOD and streaming sometime soon. And this was on, since I got to watch it at AFI virtually last year. This counted for the year 2021, and I did a best of list on my letterbox rankings. Like I did a whole ranking of it. It is number 3 behind Summer of Soul and Come On, Come On. Like after watching Come On, Come On, I just like wept and was just like a mess. And I had to gather my thoughts in a bathroom because I knew I watched something good. And I think a movie like Petite Maman can have such resonance among someone else. And like I said, no matter how old you are going to get something out of this movie. I highly, highly recommend you seek out Petite Maman. And now I feel like I need to finish watching Portrait of a Lady on Fire now that I've given Sciamma's latest a high praise review. In fact, I need to like look at all her work. I failed to mention this, but she also received a co-screenwriting credit on the Oscar-nominated animated film My Life as a Zucchini, or My Life as a Courgette, depending on which country you live in. But yeah, anyway, let's end this review and call it a day. Well, guys, that's going to do it for my review of Petite Maman. Have you guys seen it yet? Did you feel a little heartwarming in your body? Did you shed a couple tears? Were you amazed by its imagery that it set out to be? Or were you just straight up bored, even though it's a short movie? Which, how dare you? Let me know your thoughts. I'm on social media at Real Mike Webb on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. You can also follow the show on Instagram at FilmETCcast. Make sure you follow us on the many places that we stream, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, you name it. Leave a good rating, leave a 5-star review on our Apple Podcast page. That'll help get the show up to the top of the charts. Spread the word of mouth, share the show if you must. I'll be back real soon with more movie reviews. But in the meantime, thanks for listening. And until then, I will see you all at the cinema.